to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest, Vatsala Sperling. And she's here to share with us her new book, The Ayurvedic Reset Diet, Radiant Health Through Fasting, Mono Diet, and Smart Food Combining. So are you looking for a gentle way to cleanse your digestive system and reboot your brain and body? Today's guest is going to share with us just that. Vatsala is fluent in a number of Indian languages and Sanskrit, learning these traditional stories at her mother's feet and enjoying introducing them to children of the Western world. Before marrying and moving to the United States, she was chief at Clinical Microbiology Services at the largest children's hospital in India. So let's welcome to the show, Vatsala Sperling.
Thank you, Marianne.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
I am an alternative practitioner. So in my practice, in the very beginning, around 2008, a person came who had a main complaint of chronic fatigue syndrome. And as a practitioner, I evaluated her nutrition and her diet and her food intake. So it became very clear to me that the problem for her diagnosis or her suffering was not just what the name indicated, chronic fatigue syndrome. It was deeply connected with food and how she ate, what she ate, when she ate, and her whole relationship with food. Then I looked into my background in Ayurveda and went all the way back to my childhood to see what did we do differently with regards to food. Then it became a comparison between day and night. It was that different. So I said, you know what? I am going to tell this girl what is what. Now, I was at the beginning of my practice and she came to me for homeopathy. And if I tell her about, you need to clean up your diet, I might lose my client. But I said, you know what? It's not about me retaining a client. It's about me telling her what will help her. So I just spoke to her clearly. I said, this is what needs to be fixed before any remedy can do anything for you. And she went. I thought, there she goes. I'm never going to see her again. But a week later, she was back. And she said, okay, tell me more about it. So we started on a journey of using Ayurvedic principles for cleaning up her relationship with the diet. And that led to a whole transformation in this individual. Her presenting complaints went away. Ever since, in my practice, when I see clients with a messed up relationship with food, I tell them these basic Ayurvedic principles, which are laid out in my book, Ayurvedic Reset Diet. And I walk them through the process to get a better result of their work with me. And my clients have been the inspiration for me to write this book.
What a powerful story. And I love that because how many of us during this pandemic have been gaining weight, eating the wrong foods? You hear about it all the time. And so I'm sure there are a lot of people that are going, hey, I need to make changes here.
Yes, you are right on that, Marianne. The pandemic has put a lot of people under a lot of stress. So they are reaching for food which are not necessarily the best for them. Mm-hmm. But what I'm suggesting in my book, and it is very timely, this message, is that to clean up your relationship with your food, you do not have to go for heroic measures, which call for enormous amount of self-restraint and calorie counting and avoiding about 100% of various foods. No, it's not like that. All it is saying is replace the junky, bad food with something sensible, nutritious, and that is good for you. Once you do the replacement, the body will get the message and it will stop calling out for food which are not serving you well. So simple incremental changes with a little bit of self-discipline will get you the result, and there is no heroic measure required. And that message sits very well with people during the pandemic, as they are already under a lot of stress. So this book is on time, I would say.
I think it's the perfect timing for this book. And I love how you start out your book. You just go straight for it. Food as friend or foe. And I think a lot of people look at that and they have this love-hate relationship with food.
That's correct. Because it's a kind of indoctrination. They have eaten in a particular way most of their life, and they see they've landed in a bad place for some reason. Okay, our food chain, our industrial production of food, the way it is harvested, the way it is presented in the supermarkets, that has not gone very well for our digestive system. As a result, people do not question the industrial manufacturing of food, industrial manufacturing process of food. They just say, that food, it makes me so sick, it's my enemy. Food is not your enemy. We need food to live. We need food to remain healthy and functional and viable in the world, so that our body can function at an optimum pace. What you do need to do here is get a little clever about it, so that you can make the same food your friend instead of your enemy. And that little cleverness comes from knowing about the season and its relationship with food. How is food harvested? How is food manufactured? How is it presented? And what type of food you can go, wholesome, natural food that will make you healthy again. And that way you can make a friendship with your food instead of looking at it as if it is your enemy. And that way of looking at food as your enemy has its own drawback. We want to be friends with food and eat just enough to live and eat healthy. And these are the things I have taken effort to line out in my book, to say, you can make friendship with your food. You can eat healthy and regain your inner well-being.
That's so important. And I know in your book you talk about how our ancestors ate. So when we look at that, what is the comparison and why is that important?
I'll have to again go back to the day and night metaphor. Whatever ancestors ate. I'll give you one example from Aborigine groups in Australia before colonization. They hunted and they gathered. They did not do agriculture. So they hunted for that day. They gathered for that day. And hunting and gathering took a part of their day's time. Rest of the time they spent in culture, in art, in communication, in peaceful, relaxed living. Now, go back a second. When they hunted and gathered, the food was whatever was available in season. It grew in their locality and it was 100% natural. Nothing man-made had entered the food chain. Now, that is how they ate. Can we do that now? I think it's a little difficult. It's going to be difficult for us to become hunters and gatherers. No, we are, I'm talking to you on my computer. We are city-bound people. We live in apartment buildings. So going back to the ancestral way of eating, 100% is not possible right now because we are the sons and daughters of this present moment. We have the life that we have. But the idea is, how can we do our best in the circumstances we find ourselves in? So at the moment, we cannot become hunters and gatherers, but we can pay more mindful attention to wholesome and healthy food, which is as close to its source as possible. Say, for example, potatoes. You can eat it as French fries or mashed potatoes or chips, potato chips. Which one would be better for you? If you simply boiled the potato and ate it with skin, or the chips, the deep fried and the mashed potato. So, those kind of choices we can make today. What is wholesome for us? And those are again the issues that I have addressed in my book, The Ayurvedic Reset Diet. It walks a person through the process of decision making about how can we get the advantage of the wisdom of our ancestors and apply it in the time we are living now amidst the pandemic. What can we do? So yes, that's the idea in the book.
So what are we missing in our modern day food?
What we are missing is the natural nature of food. In our industrial manufacturing process, say, for example, the animals, they get the antibiotic shot, they get the artificial feed, they live in deplorable conditions till they are slaughtered. And then the meat is treated with pesticides and chemicals. And it's the man-made chemicals which have entered our food chain. It's the same with meat production, eggs, poultry, then dairy, agriculture for fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes, and anything that comes in, pre-packaged, manufactured from a factory. Those kind of foods, they are far from nature. They look like food, but the nutritional quality is robbed from them. And they are just a little chemical bomb in your dinner plate. So we have come very far and our food production has been hijacked. But the thing is, you can still take little steps toward holistic eating. Avoid the industrially manufactured, industrially grown and processed food. Go for something more natural. Go to the farmer's market, for example, and do your grocery shopping that way instead of going to a chain, national chain, and buying the brand names. So those are the little things we can do. And since we have come very far from the original source of food, we have to start taking little steps toward naturally produced food.
So I know in your book you talk about food as seasonal, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners what you mean by that.
Okay. This is a good question. I really love it. My editor, she picked on it too. She said, hey, listen, you live in Vermont. Up north, what do you mean by seasonal food? Growing season is just like 5 months in Vermont. Rest of the time, you have to depend on what is frozen or what is brought from other states. So, say, for example, watermelon is a summer fruit. But I can bet that it is available year-round in all the supermarkets. How does that happen? It's flown in. It's brought in refrigerated trucks. It is picked up before its time and it ripens in the process of transportation. So that is the divide between seasonality, locality of food. But again, we can make a choice, a small choice. We can walk by the fruit aisle in a supermarket and use our judgment. Say, hey, watermelon available in winter, something isn't correct. So I'm not going to go for it. I'm going to buy fresh watermelons in summer. So those are the little judgments we need to make to be aware what grows when and what to buy when. That's what I mean by seasonality.
I think that's so important, being able to eat in a seasonal way, because I think our bodies actually need those different nutrients.
You're right. That's the idea of nature deciding what it will grow when.
Yeah. I know in your book you talk about the environmental impact of animal husbandry. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
I actually, my head turned around. I read one particular book called Beyond Beef, and I have referenced that in my book. I am a vegetarian. So when I came to the United States, I didn't know, it's a meat eating country. My husband is a meat eater. My son is a meat eater. So that's the way of life here. And I have not changed. I have continued to be a vegetarian, and I'm a very happy vegetarian. I'm well nourished, in good health, very delighted to be a vegetarian. I don't feel I'm missing anything. But then I said, I am in a country where meat is served in every meal, literally. So let me study about it. So I studied that book and I said, oh my dear God, is that how an animal is supposed to be treated, whom you're going to eat? So then I started my research about what did the ancestors do? What did the Aborigines do? What did the hunter-gatherer cultures which were present in every continent on earth before colonization, what did they do? They hunted fresh meat and they ate. They did not have these industries where 100,000 cows will be grown in deplorable condition, given artificial feed, slaughtered even if they are sick, and their meat would be processed. So the industrial manufacturing doesn't pay attention to what is good for the animal. Well, it's going to die for your dinner. And then it also doesn't pay attention to what is good for the consumer. They pay very good attention to how they can make profit. And they are successful at that. And listen, nobody should be shy of making a profit. People make profit. They have to feel good about making a profit. But can we do that in a humane way? So this whole trend is there about going for natural food, naturally raised, free-range animals, free-range chicken, organic meat. So there is a whole movement since the 1960s. This whole organic, natural food movement is happening, which is making healthier, natural food available to people. And they do not have to go for industrially manufactured foods. And it is atrocious what does go on in the beef industry, in the pork industry. It's inhumane. It's okay to eat meat. It's a part of life for about, I would say, 3/4 of the world. People eat meat. Vegetarians are a handful who abstain from meat. Can we not do it in a better way, in a more humane way? So that's what I want my readers to pay attention. Eat your meat, but make sure it comes from a good source. And step away from industrial production meat.
I think when farmers and ranchers care about the humane way that they handle their livestock, that makes such a big difference, because we are eating these animals. And if they're having so much trauma, I would think that trauma also gets ingested by us at some point.
I do believe that happens. I do believe. Along with the chemicals and antibiotics and growth hormones and pesticides, whatever else has been given to the animal, along with that, it's fear, it's trauma, it's suffering, it's helplessness. Those emotions also are carried by way of our food. And, you cannot prove it in the laboratory. I come from a clinical microbiology background and I come from hardcore scientific background. So I will always say, can it be proven in the laboratory? But no, you cannot prove this. The trauma that an animal goes through when it's treated in the industrial manner. So you have to take a step away from it and still get your meat in a natural way, so that at least you have avoided about 80% of the bad things which come with your food, and you're still getting the benefit.
Yeah, making some really different choices. And we do that every time we shop, which I don't think a lot of people realize. When we're shopping, we're actually voting for what it is that we want to see more of.
You're right. We vote with our dollars, or we vote with our wallet. That's correct. We can make a choice, and we can let the manufacturers know what is not going to be acceptable for our well-being, because they are not going to think about our well-being. We have to do that. And in Ayurvedic Reset Diet, in this book, you go step by step, what to buy, when to buy, how to choose, how to refurbish your pantry, how to reorganize your kitchen, how to cleanse your body from within before you prepare yourself for doing this Ayurvedic Reset Diet, and make simple changes in the time when you eat food, at the hours of gap between two meals, and the amount of food that sustains you, and the type of food that can be included. Simple changes, little steps toward better well-being.
I just love that we can make these steps and really have a benefit, not just for ourselves, but for the planet as well. And I know one of the things that you talk about, which I was real impressed with, was about blessing our water before we drink it.
Think of it, Marianne. We are about 75% water in our body. Our lung tissues are almost 83% water. And when you actually look at the molecular composition of a body, it is molecules of various minerals which occur in nature. They are floating around in a little soup, like 90% is water, 83% is water. And in that, some chemical molecules are moving around. That's what constitutes our body. Even though we look like solid, muscular, buff, beautiful people, that's what our body is. So water, without water, there is no life. So we consume it. Even when we eat solid food, it has some moisture content in it. We consume it on a daily basis. So let us begin by looking at water as it is going to each and every cell in our body. Can we say to this water, please heal me, please keep my health and well-being in a good balance? And with that attitude, we drink our cup of water. Instead of it is just a expensive $10 fancy bottle of water that we buy in a store and gulp it down without even looking at it. Instead of that, hold a cup of water in your hand and say, look, you're going to go in my body. You're going to go into every single cell. Bring with you a healing energy that would help me. So it's amazing to think that simple water, when you consume it, you can have healing thoughts for yourself in the process.
I know in your book you cover fasting. What impacts does that have on our body?
Enormous impact, starting from oral health, because in the fasting process, I have laid out in my book, Ayurvedic Reset Diet, there are 2 days of water-only fasting. One day is water only, and the second day is water along with alternating with herbal tea. So you get a variation. In those 2 days, from mouth all the way to the other end of your digestive system, you are cleaned out, you're flushed out, you're revived. Water is pulling all the accumulated toxins and wastes in your GI system, gastrointestinal system, and it is going out. And then you start with either a 2-day or a week of one type of food that you will choose. So in the book, it is laid out. You can have a type of fruit for a week or a type of vegetable for a week. And there are various variations on what you can have. So what happens, you are getting regular nourishment, but it is one type of food. So the body is not lacking in energy input or calorie intake. It is reduced a bit, but you can still sustain all your activities as before. And I get that feedback from my clients who do the Ayurvedic reset diet, and I have done it myself. While on the fasting, you have enormous energy. You wonder from where it is coming. So what's happening is body is processing the reserve of energy that we have in our body, because you're withholding about a big chunk of different kinds of food. You're staying with one type of food. That is allowing the stomach and the gastrointestinal tract to cleanse itself. And then gradually you bring in other types of fruits and other types of vegetables, even meat at a later time. And then you begin to combine food by avoiding the ones that fight with each other. Like you don't drink milk and then half a cup of vinegar. That's incompatible. So I have explained those things, and the whole detailed step-by-step system of fasting, at the same time eating sensibly, which is the basis of this book, Ayurvedic Reset Diet. And it has enormous benefits for cleaning the gastrointestinal tract, cleaning the mouth. The breath smells better because the old waste from the GI system is gone, and our reserve of additional fat comes down. But Marianne, essentially, I want to emphasize one thing with this book. It's not a fad book based on how to drop 20 pounds in a week and become the beach body. It's not that kind of book. It wouldn't make a person size 0 fashion model. It's not that kind of book. It's the kind of book which will make you sit up and think about what you are putting in your mouth and how it is serving you or working against you. It makes you question the food chain. It makes you question the eating habits. It makes you question your relationship with food. And then it doesn't just leave you with the questions. It gives you an answer and says, connect with the source of the food in a holistic way. Put in a little bit of structure in what you eat, when you eat, how you eat, why you eat, and then see the result. That is what Ayurvedic Reset Diet book is about. It gives a whole program.
It is really detailed, and I found it to be a great book. And it feels like it really allows us to cultivate a more loving relationship with food than most people think about.
Yes.
So where would you like our listeners to connect with you and learn more about your work and be part of your community?
The best place would be www.rochesterhomeopathy.com. They can communicate with me via that website, and they can find the book on Amazon. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, any independent bookstore, they all carry it. And that's how they can connect with me.
Well, Vatsala, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Marianne, it has been my pleasure. And you asked wonderful question. It was lovely talking with you.
Well, Vatsala, it has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Ayurvedic Reset Diet. Ayurvedic Reset Diet's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, ask for them to order it. And of course, it's available on Kindle. Again, if you like to connect with Vatsala, you can at 47lifetimes.com for more information. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.